Welcome to the East Fishkill Planning Board meeting for March 17th, 2026, and St. Patrick's Day. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The upcoming meeting dates are April 21st, 2026, and May 19th, 2026. We have minutes of the meetings held in both January and February. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes?
Yeah.
If so, I'll accept a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the first item on the agenda is Ridges at Stormville Mountain Subdivision. We have an adjourned public hearing. Could I have a motion to reopen the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Next load. Amy Patain, project planner with LRC. I'm just going to give a brief overview just for any public that haven't attended. So this project is the Ridges at Stormville Mountain Road. It's a 12-lot subdivision in the R2 district. It involves 20 Stormville Mountain Road, 15 Van Brook Drive, and 24 Van Brook Drive. The proposed subdivision is, again, 12 lots, but 10 new lots for single-family residential with served by septic and well, and then 2 modified existing lots. The lot sizes for the new lots range from just over 2 acres to just over 5 acres. And since we were last in front of the board, we did receive comments and respond to those comments. One of the changes we made was we added to the bulk table the area for impervious surface for stormwater, as well as we did address concerns for the site distance for lots 2 and 3 by shifting the house and the driveway slightly. There was a concern over any cars being parked in either driveway might block or impair the site distance, so we did do a shift for those 2 houses. So that's it since the last time we were in front.
Okay, excellent. Any questions or comments by board members? I'll move to the professionals. Have we had a chance to kind of confirm the changes work for site distance?
Yeah, we've been looking at it, and I maybe can just point out on the board, if you could, show the board lots 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
So the concern we have is for lot 3 requires a site distance easement across pretty much the whole front yard of lot 2. It's a pretty considerable area, something that we haven't seen anything to that extent in the past. So that remains a concern, and we're hoping that they can maybe continue to try to work through that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? So I think that's something that we can deal with in future meetings for sure. In the meantime, just to remind the public, at our last meeting, we did pass a resolution to permit you to do some limited tree clearing to be able to start to work on the
site distance.
Site distances,
Yep.
and as well as to be able to get access to a well. Or
To 2 lots,
2 wells.
2 and 10.
Okay. And then we adjourned the public hearing, but we've reopened it. So are there any members of the public here to speak for or against the project? Okay, if not, then we can further adjourn the public hearing to a date in the future to be determined. At your desire, you can let the planning department know when you're ready to come back in. Does that
Probably
work?
the next step is to iron out this site distance easement, and we can do that offline.
Okay.
Would there be no option to close the public hearing, or does the board not feel comfortable moving forward with that?
There were people here that were here for the public hearing last time, and I think it got a little confused when we closed it. I would be concerned about closing it right now. Because I think I think maybe they felt as if we were adjourning it to a later date.
Okay, got it, understood. So perhaps we confused a few of the people that were here that wanted to speak about the project. I think it's going to be a limited number of comments, but I think we do need to keep it open then for at least one more meeting.
Okay.
And I suspect that it will be entirely likely that we'll be able to close it at that time.
Understood.
So with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn the public hearing to a future date to be determined.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Did you say for the date for the public hearing?
I did not set a date for a date to be determined.
So don't you think we should, Michelle?
Well,
just-
are you guys going to be prepared to come back next? Are you still working on the site distance stuff right now?
We're still working through comments, but we could be back by the next, we can be back at the next meeting.
Okay, well then, let's
What's the next meeting date? Is it April 21st?
so let's amend that motion to be to adjourn this public hearing to our next meeting of April 21st, 2026.
Thank you very much.
So can I have that
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
And, sorry, John Kuroda, applicant.
Hi, John.
Can I ask a clarifying question as far as, is there anything that we should do as far, so we spoke with people
We're
outside?
going to schedule a meeting.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Stormville Square.
Hello, how are you?
Good evening.
The only real update we have for the board, we're here for a resolution hopefully tonight. We did submit to the Board of Health for our water design and our septic design, which will be on-site. It's under review. We've had a couple of comments that are supposed to be coming to us this week, so that is in process. That's the
Great.
real update.
Any adjustments to the plan since our last meeting?
Nope, no changes to the plans. The septic underground is configured slightly different, just because our original plan that we had in front of you was obviously a sewer pump station, so we've just transferred that to on-site with subsurface infiltrators, and so everything that you'll see will be below grade, not visual to the eye.
Great. Any questions or comments by board members? Anything by our professionals?
Yes, the last time they were in front of us, I think was February of 2025. And at that time, we have not yet declared a lead agency. Basically, we declared our intent, but we didn't declare lead agency. They circulated and all that, but we didn't close up that housekeeping piece. So tonight, you're also going to have to declare lead agency.
Okay. Sorry that we overlooked that. May I have a motion to declare lead agency for Stormville Square?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Done. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll move on to the negative declaration. Name of action, Stormville Square, retail plaza with on-site septic. Proposed action is the construction of a new 21,000 square foot, one-story retail building, including potential restaurant space and 119 parking spaces on a site with an existing commercial building on the west side of the site. An existing curb cut on Route 216 that currently services the commercial building will be eliminated, and a new curb cut will be created to service both the new building and the existing commercial plaza. This is an unlisted action, and the items that were considered included land use and zoning, visual character, historic and archaeological resources, plants and animals, transportation and other, and in all cases, there's nothing about the project that is expected to generate any significant issues with regards to environmental items. So with that, could I have a motion to approve the negative declaration?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And any opposed? Okay, resolution of amended site plan approval. Name of applicant is Stormville Square Corp., location 194-198 Route 216, resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman. Whereas the applicant originally received site plan approval on June 21st, 2022 for a previous application on the site, also titled Stormville Square, which envisioned a 35,946 square foot, one-story climate-controlled indoor storage facility, and was represented on a map entitled Stormville Square, prepared by Day and Stokosa Engineering PC, dated 7/28/21, and last revised on May 27th, 2022, whereas the applicant subsequently amended the site plan to modify the proposed building from a one-story, 35,946 square foot climate-controlled indoor storage building to a two-story, 35,000 square foot climate-controlled indoor storage building. We've had quite a history with this. And whereas the applicant received amended site plan approval on September 19th, 2023 for the two-story Stormville Square storage facility, whereas as part of this site plan, the existing curb cut on Route 216 that currently services the existing commercial plaza was eliminated, and a new curb cut was created to service both the new indoor storage building and the existing commercial plaza, whereas the applicant also received approval by motion from the Planning Board on 9/17/24 to install a retaining wall along the western perimeter of the property, whereas in December 2024, prior to construction of the approved storage facility, the applicant withdrew the previously approved application for a storage facility and submitted a new application for a 21,000 square foot, one-story retail commercial office building, including potential restaurant space, a proposed sewer connection and pump station, and 119 parking spaces, including 6 handicap spaces, whereas the proposed project is an unlisted action under seeker and a long-form EAF was prepared, whereas the Planning Board declared intent to be lead agency for the retail building on December 17th, 2024, and whereas the Planning Board declared lead agency on 2/18/25, and whereas a public hearing for the retail building was opened on 2/18/25 and closed on 2/18/25, whereas the proposed retail building was reviewed and approved by the ARC on March 6, 2025, whereas subsequently the applicant amended the plan to have a proposed building serviced by on-site well and septic rather than public sewer connection, and whereas due to the minor nature of the proposed changes, the Planning Board waived the requirement for a public hearing for the revision to the planned septic infrastructure, and whereas the Planning Board determined the proposed retail building would not be expected to result in any significant adverse impacts, and the Planning Board adopted a negative declaration on 3/17/26. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the amended site plan for Stormville Square as represented on a map entitled Amended Site Plan Stormville Square, prepared by Dan Stokosa Engineering PC, dated 12/31/24 and last revised on 1/30/26, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the resolution of comments on Rennie Engineering Review Letter dated 2/12/26. Number 2, the applicant shall be required to fund an escrow account for an environmental monitor during construction. Number 3, the applicant shall install all lighting and landscaping as shown on the site plan and as per the agreement with MEK Industries, the adjoining property owner to the north. Number 4, approval from Dutchess County Board of Health. And number 5, applicant shall obtain all necessary approvals and permits from New York State DOT for the driveway. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the Planning Board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote. Board Member Ed Mayoshi?
Aye.
Sarah Bledsoe?
Abstaining.
Oh, and she abstains. Richard Campbell?
Aye.
Donald Pepe? Aye. John Giovanni? Aye. And John Eichman, I'm an aye. It's approved. Thank you. Good evening. Okay, the next item on the agenda is TEG Federal Credit Union. Yes. Yep. I think this is an additional location for them that includes their mortgage. Yeah, I met the human resources person Sunday night. just happened or whatever. That's interesting. That Crew Restaurant. That's a good. Yeah.
All right, I think I got it here for you guys. This is the TEG site. This is right across from the Blue Fountain Restaurant, right across from Van Wyck Junior High. I'm just gonna try to get this a little bit here so we can see. I was involved with this application a couple of years ago, where we were in front of the board.
Can you speak into the mic?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We were in front of the board a couple of years, probably 15 years ago, early 2000s, with this site. We had a restaurant and a commercial retail building, building in the back, parking in the front, and it was also coordinated with our old office next door with parking easements and whatnot. But essentially, almost the same configuration. We spent a lot of time with DOT back with that old site plan, having the entrance across from the Blue Fountain Restaurant. So basically shook the rug on that old site plan. Now we've refreshed it with a new applicant. It's going to be the TEG Bank. It's a two-story building, so the thought process is they have a couple of rentals. They'd like to consolidate and own the building. So there would be obviously teller space, your typical credit union action downstairs, and then upstairs there'll be more of like a mortgage office type of establishment where there'll be a couple of employees upstairs. Looking at the building, they've followed their same motif with the architectural style. We've tried to update our architectural plans based upon a meeting with the town planner, with the new architectural guidelines. We'll kind of bring those up in a minute. But we've done a lot of legwork with the town and with the applicant trying to get to this point. Again, this is our initial presentation, but parking in the front, offices upstairs, retail, the teller aspect downstairs. Along the backside, we have two drive-throughs. We have one for ATM, one for a teller, and then an escape lane. Some of the concepts that we kept from the old site plan was having some kind of wall feature along the front, and speaking to the town planner, a sidewalk. There are the provisions for a sidewalk along the frontage of the property. And one of the big things that we were focusing in on was part of the last site plan application was DOT and traffic as it relates to the school and the intersection. So while the town was in a moratorium, we took the opportunity to contract Colliers Engineering. And over the course of the last year, and plus some initial involvement with the town planner, went ahead and performed a traffic study of the site as it's proposed, looking at the school traffic, and we wanted to capture traffic counts before school let out for the summer. So Colliers went out and performed traffic counts in May of last year. So we've done a fair bit of legwork here to make sure that the proposal that we have meets the eyes of the DOT. So Colliers worked with the DOT. There was 3 submissions back and forth over the course of the year, and as the moratorium was ending in 2025, DOT came back and said they were happy with the entrance as shown, and some of the modifications that we show on the plan. Some of them were, as far as site distance, looking left out of the site, down 376, let's say toward Stewart's, that direction. Just keeping any landscaping below 30 inches maintained so that you can keep that visual sight line. And then there was a warning sign to be placed on 376 as you approach the school that there is an intersection coming up on your right. So we sent that traffic study in for review. HVA came back with a couple of comments, but I think at the end of the day, based upon DOT's comments in January of this year, that they were happy with what they saw, basically moved toward highway work permit. On-site sewer, we're going to be connecting to Central Water. We'd like to work with the town water department. The water line runs right down the frontage and kind of turns toward the corner into Dogwood. So the thought process was to tie into Central Water there. And we'd probably be working with George Kronko with the water department to see if sprinklers are an option for the building and if the pressures can sustain it. But these are things that are in process and things that we're looking at. As far as architecture goes, I'll just give you guys a heads up here. What Mr. Zeller's put together, he's the architect, he's here tonight. So this would be the front of the building. This entrance that you see here, this is coming into the parking lot and then kind of working your way through the building, and then this would be the entrance toward the existing attorney building that's next door. But it has that feature that TEG has with their building style, and we've tried to incorporate some of the architectural features in here. The total height of this is 32 feet. Again, your first floor is 2,800 square feet, upper floor a little bit bigger because we have those areas above the entrances and above the drive-through area, to about 3,500 square feet. We're doing some cultured stone along the bottom, standing seam roof, we have some architectural shingles, and then some EIFS on the lower level. The hope is to have some input from the board tonight on obviously the site plan and architectural style, and ultimately pivoting over with the board's blessing to the ARC to get some input from their board, and hopefully we can come back over in the near future to this board and advance the project forward. But that's my gist on the site plan. Stormwater, we're going to be under an acre of disturbance, so we're doing subsurface stormwater treatment in our front parking lot. And again, septic will be on site with a small pump chamber and some infiltrators. That's it.
Okay. Questions by board members?
So
Or comments?
I guess one of my first concerns or questions would be the traffic study. Do you have the comment letter from them, or do you have any of that information at hand?
So HVEA did review the comment letter, the traffic study. They came up with a series of comments. We've obviously forwarded that to Colliers Engineering. They had some input back. But I think at the end of the day, if you look at what DOT said, the traffic study as submitted, again, it had 3 revisions. It was actually reviewed 3 times over the course of the last year before we could come to this board, because we were technically in a moratorium. So we did a little bit of legwork before we came here to ensure that, this was a viable project for the applicant to continue in contract. But looking at some of we didn't prepare the traffic study, but we have forwarded to them. But from what I'm told from Colliers, they will be preparing a response to it. And as far as, what is brought up in this, minor in nature, technical in nature.
Yes.
But still need to work through it.
Okay. So the next thing I was looking at is I see the back of the building, is that an overhang like for the drive-through and the? Yeah. So there's no accessibility for fire apparatus to get around that building 360?
I think if we're looking for, there's an escape lane that's on the side, it's 12-foot wide, 15-foot clear, right? Standard clearance for a commercial access. If you want the ability to drive a fire truck through there, we'd probably have to expand that slightly.
Yeah.
But it can handle a pickup truck, sedan, that type of vehicle.
So it would impede, though, then the buffer zone, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess those would be my 2 finer points that I see immediately, would be definitely traffic there is, I think is very difficult when school's in. I mean, between the bus traffic and then the parental traffic, it's, I don't know why that is such a bug, but it seems like there's a ton of parents that drive their kids to and from school. It's not like, I don't want to date myself, but when younger, I used to take the bus, but when I drive through there in the morning, if you get caught in that, it's
It's a zoo there.
it's unbelievable.
It is, and I think
Very difficult.
I think the one thing about this site is I think our peak hours are slightly different, especially in the morning time. Whereas, this is like a 9 o'clock in the morning operation.
Yeah.
And bus traffic, I drive there around 7 o'clock, it's mayhem.
Yeah.
So,
Have you reviewed the plan to give comment yet?
Yeah, they did, I wasn't at our last fire advisory board meeting, but they did submit our recommendations to Jackie, so. And one of them was to be able to fully access around the building. The others, he kind of addressed sprinkler systems, Knox box, on our standard.
Definitely with
So
the
right now, there's no requirement for a sprinkler system?
It's based on how the building's constructed internally. There are ways to do without a sprinkler system, but it means more robust firewalls and that type of thing.
That all gets addressed at building permit time. That all gets addressed through the,
Okay.
I'm sorry?
that all gets addressed through the building permit.
Oh, okay. How many square feet in total is the building?
Just a hair over 6,500.
Okay.
And how many employees are we looking at?
I think we showed a max of 10 at one time.
Okay.
So I think we provide 25 spaces, I believe, just a hair over 20. And again, those employees would be directed more toward the attorney building, leaving the front spaces open for patrons of the site.
But this would also be an active branch that would have a banking facility in it?
Yes, sir.
Not just offices?
Active branch,
So there would be customer parking too?
yes.
Excuse me.
That second story is part of the bank, or is that rental space?
It's the banks.
Bank space?
Any questions or comments by our professionals?
I'd just like to circle back to the fire truck circulation. So that's a requirement, a request from the fire department to have full circulation. I understood that correctly?
Because, once again, depending on where the fire is and how we have to approach it, we may have to put the ladder truck up in the rear versus the front.
So Brian, could you speak to what modification would be required? Because I heard something about impacting the buffer.
Right, so I think we're in a situation where if it's sprinklered, would you need full access around the building? Or if it's not sprinklered, I think you would need full access, you would want full access around the building. So
Well, even if it is, sprinklers don't always control the fire, and for rescue purposes, if nothing else, we may need access to the rear for roof ventilation. So we like to get as much access as we can all the way around any building.
okay. I think we can look at the plan, and I think we could find a way to protect the buffer to the residential component to the south and provide that access. Something we could talk to the applicant about.
Okay.
Is the shape of the building by design because of their requirements and what they want it to look like?
I can let the architect speak to that, but it's my
Okay.
understanding that that's their brand, that's their style.
Okay.
It's how do we take that style and kind of massage it with the architectural standards that the town has just developed.
Okay.
Do they generally have the blue roof on their other buildings as well?
I think it's blue and green, correct?
The other branches have
Would you come to the microphone? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Don Zeller, the architect for the
Good evening.
project. The prior branches have a green metal partial roof. The credit union president has asked me to incorporate their company color, if possible, for the blue part of the roof.
Got it.
So the aesthetics of the building are kind of a continuation of the prior branches, that are in Wappingers, Middletown. And we'd like to have the look on two sides of the building, being that it's like a three-way kind of intersection. So that's why the design came out the way that did.
Okay. Got it. I wanted to ask a little bit about screening to protect the neighbors to the south, I guess it would be. What kind of screening do you have in there?
We have a series of evergreens mixed in along the existing buffer. So there is a tree line along there, so we're trying to obviously not impact that tree line as much as possible. And then within the voids of that tree line, start spacing some evergreens. Whatever we can do to obviously make the board happy and provide any additional screening the applicant will provide.
How wide of a buffer is there, Brian?
I think we're 25 feet.
Because you should just, check the section 109 and 194, 109 and 194, 116 to make sure you're kind of
Okay.
in line with those.
Yep.
And then, can you just give me a little bit more information about the uses in the, because it's a pretty big building. So there's offices, but what else is happening in the building? Because I'm trying to understand, to evaluate the parking.
It's my understanding that that's where they're going to do their mortgages upstairs, so they'll have their mortgage department upstairs. So
So they're going to need multiple spaces for a closing, because you'll have attorneys, you'll have a bunch of people coming.
possible.
Plus, it's an active branch, he stated.
Yeah.
So it's going to have customer traffic too, right at the branch side. I guess those two entrances, one's going to be designated for the active bank branch, and the other's going to be an entrance for the office above.
Potentially, yes.
I just wanted to circle back to the traffic comments. I know HVA had about a page or so of comments that you're going to address. We haven't been privy to any comments or correspondence from the DOT, so while Brian has had conversations, we haven't been privy to that, so we'll be following up on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll forward all the, I talked to Colliers today, they're going to forward everything that they've had with DOT over the course of the last year, so we'll provide that.
So Brian, I looked at the lighting plans. I didn't see anywhere on the lighting plans that they showed what I would consider ATM level lightings. I know there's a requirement. So where is the ATM going to be located? Is it under where the drive-through is?
It's in the drive-through area, and we were playing around with different lights in that area. So that's probably one of the areas that we just need to refine a little bit more, but the object was underneath that overhang.
Okay, so we want to see as low as possible,
Low as possible.
and we don't want to see like indoor lighting levels under that canopy that spill out everywhere.
Right,
You and I have been out multiple times looking at lighting.
very well.
So, all right, so when you get, you're not quite there yet with that, but we'll look at that when you provide it. So we have to refer to the ARC. We should declare intent to be lead agency.
Yes.
And then Matt Rickett mentioned that you guys are maybe getting a new fire truck of some sort. Do we have the dimensions of that yet? And is that been provided, do we know, Brian, if you used those?
I don't know if he got it, but it was turned in last week to Matt,
Okay,
and it was supposedly in all the whatever package you hand out now.
okay. So we just need to make sure you have the latest dimensions of the newer truck.
Yeah, they're pretty standard. We'll run the turning analysis on it.
All right. I think that's it for right now.
Okay, well, so we'll do a little business. Could I have a motion to declare intent to be lead agency?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And could I have a motion to refer the applicant to the ARC?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good.
Just a quick note on the aesthetics of the building. In my humble opinion, there's a lot of residential-looking buildings in that area. The school across the street is about to go through a massive renovation. I would love to see a much more neutral feel to the building, more aesthetically matching some of what's going on in that general area versus a very loud, bold color scheme, if possible.
Okay.
I have a feeling you're going to get those kind of comments from the ARC as well.
I think so.
And to add what Brian said, I did review the guidelines from the ARC and incorporated, horizontal siding on the second floor. I put the signboard that, wrap around the building, by their guidelines too. So, there's cultured stone and the stucco ephes finishes, it's a earth tone light tan. So it should look good with, the blue fountain across the road, the junior high school. Obviously they're both tan tones. If there are any renderings of what the junior high is going to look like, I would really like to have those. Because I would, definitely like to, have our building look good with everything
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
surrounding
I
it.
agree.
So,
Great, thank you. Any other comments? If not, we will see you at a future meeting.
Future meeting, I appreciate it. Thanks for the input.
Thank you.
That's been about the only. Okay.
I just got-
The last item, the last item on the agenda is Woodland Estates. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
He's paying attention.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Cooper. I'm a partner with the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz here representing the applicant, Leighton Properties, who's the contract vendee for the Woodland Estates property on 376. We're here tonight for a brief update and giving you an update on where we are on the DEIS because that's coming your way soon, and we wanted to just to go through it. With me tonight is Terry Hahn from LADA, the project planners, Rich Williams from Insight Engineering, the project engineer, and Paul Scholar from Sterling Engineering, which is helping us with the water testing. We were going to give you a general update, but we saw NPW's memo late today or midday today, and anticipate that that's the focus of your board's question, so we're going to jump right into it. The question is, why are we well testing now? And the answer is in the scope that this board adopted, the secret scope, which lays out all of the questions that are being asked of the applicant and all the potential adverse impacts that you want to evaluate in the DEIS so that we can move this to an FEIS and then eventually findings as to what's the proper mitigation and what is what's an impact. On page 22 of the scope, number 4 under water quality supply or water supply asks the applicant to evaluate or prepare an analysis, I'll quote, an analysis that the proposed wells will not adversely impact the neighboring municipal well field or any residential wells. I believe that comment was inserted into the scope after the public scoping session when people brought up the concerns about whether or not hooking up more residential units to the water table, would that impact wells? And so that was in the scope. You sent us off about almost a year ago, well, a little less than a year ago, to go to run these studies. I would note also, this is a study that both the applicant and I believe the town wants this to be undertaken because we want to know how much water capacity is in the ground. Your consultant, WSP, has projected that there's somewhere between 525, 575 gallons per minute of water. It's a lot of water. That's more than just 468 units. That may be some excess for the town. That may be, there's a lot of benefit there. So the applicant is saying, yeah, we want to perform this testing. I did notice in the MPV memo that provision in the scoping document isn't cited in the memo as to why we're going forward with the testing now, but I would just, for the record, put that in here. That's why we're moving forward. We recognize that there was a question as to the methodology and how we're going to get to the site to actually perform the well testing. I would say we reviewed NPV's memo. We don't believe it captures the actual proposal accurately. What I would say is we're not building a road, we're not removing significant amount of trees. We're using an existing pathway to the site from Mark Lane, and then there's a pathway on the site already, because remember, this site was developed or started to be developed in the 80s. There are already pathways on the site to the wells, and we're digging in wells where we're going to be excavating in locations where your consultants have said that's where you should be digging. I'm going to turn over to Rich in a second. He'll take you through. He'll show you that I think it's 5 or 6 trees that would be removed out of the entire property. So this is not a lot of disturbance. So I just want the board to understand that. And then the other thing I just want to emphasize is We have been going back and forth with your expert consultant, with the town staff, with the county on this testing protocol. This isn't something that just is kind of coming up out of nowhere. The last 5 to 6 months, the applicant has been spending money, preparing plans, going back and forth, getting approvals to do this. This has been a highly vetted plan. And so we're standing here before you tonight to say we're about to move forward on that so that we can get this information for you. We saw MPV's memo suggesting we should do it later. We don't want to do it later. We want to do it now. We think this information is necessary to move this process forward. Let me turn it over to Rich so that you can get an understanding of what we're going to be doing and why, and then I'm happy to come back and answer any questions. Okay, great. Oops, somebody. Okay.
So good evening. For your record, my name is Rich Williams, and I'm with Insight Engineering. What you see before you is the area where we're going to be working on site. This isn't the full site or the full 100 acres. On the top of the page, you can see the cul-de-sac for Mark Lane. It doesn't end in a cul-de-sac. There's actually a gravel extension that goes to our property line. And on this plan, this is the well access path that we have met on site and been working with the town to utilize. We didn't pick this path out of thin air. We thought it was the most sensitive way to enter the property. We do have frontage on Route 376. However, it is separated from this portion of the site by the Shenandoah Creek and a large DEC wetland. So there is an existing bridge crossing. However, the area between the bridge and Route 376 has revegetated and reestablished as DEC adjacent area, and would require clearing and working through that area to be able to access the bridge. We'd also have to vet whether that bridge is even structurally sound, which we're not sure based on its age and lack of maintenance. So there's a lot of environmentally sensitive lands to cross that way. We didn't think it was a feasible route to explore. What we did note, though, is there is an existing trail that comes off the end of Mark Lane that comes down through the site and around this area of the property. And the reason why you see the topography have such boxy shapes in that area is that's where all the original foundations were excavated, and those are the topographic remains of that. Along the southern end of that here, or really the eastern end, which then starts to run north, there is an existing dirt access road that was built back in the 80s, I guess, because the 80s and 90s when construction was underway. That's what we're proposing to use. We will have to regrade a couple of sections of it. We will have to widen it a little bit in certain areas just to make sure it's safe and accessible for a well rig. But the idea is to be as minimally invasive as possible. As David said, we're thinking about approximately 5 to 6 trees may have to be removed along the entire route. We've taken a look at the route and distances to neighboring properties. For instance, from this house down to the access trail is just over 500 feet. From this property line to the access trail, we are about 275 feet to this corner, and we get about 430 feet to this area. This is the one spot where there's a little bit of slope on the existing access road, and we want to reduce the slope a little bit just to make it safer to traverse and less erodible as we're starting to move in the site. This is also an operation where we bring a well rig in. We'll be bringing supplies down to the well rig with smaller equipment, but once the well rig is set up, the well rig doesn't come in and out. It comes in, it drills the well, and then it leaves. So we've worked through proper erosion controls. We made sure our disturbance stays under 1 acre. And we really think as far as being able to use existing features on site, be as least impactful as possible, and still get the information that I think is helpful for the town to know, for us to know, to make sure that we know the well tests that were done decades ago are still accurate and adequate is important.
This might be the appropriate time for me to ask a question that occurs to me. Can you walk through a timeline of what will occur by day, if you will, with regards to this project, and what kind of equipment and vehicles are going to be coming in and off of the project?
And what's going to happen to that road afterwards? Because I know a lot of the neighbors were upset about potential traffic going through the neighborhood.
Let me answer that one first, because that's, we want to emphasize that. We put it in the letter, but we want to emphasize it. That's not, as part of the ultimate proposal, that would be an emergency access that's gated. That is not going to be a through street at all.
So there's only going to be one exit in and out of there coming off of 376?
Coming off of 376 is one, yeah, which, right.
And how far back does that go? Because isn't there some sort of, if you go back a certain number of feet, you need to have a second entrance there?
Well, that would be the second entrance, it's just an emergency entrance. But that's not what we're here for tonight, just right. That's part of the impact analysis, no question. I'm not poo-pooing the question, but the immediate issue is we're mobilized, we're ready to go. We've been working with the county, with the town to start this so that we can get the DEIS before you, and we need the okay tonight to move ahead. Yeah. So go. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good. You're good. So basic run through. Paul Scholar with Sterling Environmental, but basic run through of what we would be doing for the drilling. After the access road is cleared, sediment and erosion controls are set up. Driller would be coming in. Drill rig will come into the site. It would be there, I would say, 1 to 3 days, usually about 2 days, he would be done. At that point, the drill rig would leave. Along with the drill rig would be probably 2 pickup trucks, and then a larger pickup with a trailer load of well casing. And that would be the only vehicles entering other than consultants, personal vehicles going back. After that, after the well is drilled, there's pumping tests. There's what we call a step drawdown test. We basically run a test to show you the rate of the well for the 72-hour test. That would be a day. You'd have to have your driller come in with a crane truck, put a temporary well pump in. He'd be there for a day. We'd do that test. At that point, you'd then move into a 72-hour test. So beyond the drill rig, that's the only, semi-sized vehicle that's going to be in. Everything else would be pickup truck sized.
Can you speak to the work required to get the road in a condition that the well rig can actually utilize it? Because I walked the road, and a fair amount of it, you need an ATV. You're not even driving a pickup truck through currently. So some of it is flat where the houses were starting to excavate, but that stretch back to Mark Lane is a goat trail at best. So can you describe how much work is going to be required? I heard about a hammer having to come in and hammer rock, so can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I don't think they were planning on hammering rocks. There was, one section of rock that, this might be better for.
So I think the area you're talking, sorry, Dave, is right in here. There's one area of steep section, and I'm a little surprised to take it back because I know you've walked with our staff. We've reviewed this trail numerous times together. And
well, I walked it one time, so.
But we've had this plan in front of you for 5 or 6 months, and at the same time, when I say we were on the 1 yard line, I think we were very close to be getting the okay to drill. So, what I will tell you about as far as the work and the reference to a goat trail, there is an existing 8-foot wide in most places dirt and gravel road. We'll be widening it to 10 feet for the majority of it. And then in this area, this is the area where we'll have regrading, and that is the area that is 430 feet from the nearest property line. And it'll just be regrading out that slope, as I mentioned in the initial presentation, to level it out. Not make it completely level, but take a slope like that and just reduce it so that we can get the well rigs in and out.
So you'll be bringing in, though, construction equipment to do the grading, and then I presume some material as well for the roadway?
Yes, we're going to bring in a little bit of item 4 for the areas where we're just going to go from 8 to 10 feet. And then we are going to bring in a little bit of item 4. We're going to see what we can use on site, as we cut the fill to try and regrade that little area, the small area right here out. But yeah, there will be initially, prior to the well rig, a small backhoe and, maybe a small bulldozer coming in.
And you referred to the width of the existing, you referred to it as a trail, different things, but it's 8 feet now?
There was, yes.
And you want to bring it to 10 feet, am I to understand? And then would you be removing any fill from the site?
No.
And then you referred to 5 or 6 trees only removed?
Yep. As far as trees, there is, just in full disclosure to the candidate of the board, if you go out to the end of Mark Lane, you'll see there's a lot of secondary growth, barberry, things like that. To get through that, we'll have to cut through that, but there's not significant trees in there.
But nothing significant, no?
We're not clear cutting forest, we're not taking large swaths of woods down. Actually, where we're going to be drilling, all the way down in this remote section of the property, there's an existing water storage tank that still exists and an existing building. So there was quite a bit of disturbance down there originally for construction.
But that was all constructed via the bridge, though, correct? You didn't come off Mark Lane, or you weren't here, but
No.
that access came from 376.
The original construction, my understanding, and I'm not sure if that was an approved access or not, but there was an access off 376. That was the bridge I referred to that is down in this portion of the property here. But to get to the bridge, everything in gray on the plan you see is the New York State DEC wetland as recently flagged.
I'm going to show them when we have to go straight through the wetlands to get.
So that particular access, though, would be rendered not usable at this
They'd have to
stage?
get permits, I guess, from the DEC.
I don't think they said that. I thought I heard you say you haven't really determined whether that bridge will be able to support what you're trying to do.
We haven't done structural evaluations on the bridge. We haven't gone to DEC and asked candidly. If I go to DEC and I say, there's a viable alternative that avoids the buffer, they're going to say, okay, go that way.
Yeah. But so, my understanding, though, the access to this development, should it go to fruition and take place, where is it?
It is not where the original access was. So let me pull up a plan that gives you guys a better understanding of this.
By the way, while you're looking for that, I want to respond to something that you said a few minutes ago. You mentioned that you'd been working on this for some time. This board has only seen this for a couple of days, so we're really behind the 8 ball on this.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you know.
In the months of our discussions, candidly, coming to the board was not something that was brought up to us.
Okay.
It wasn't until we were just about told we had the go-ahead to go that as we suggested we come to you. Otherwise, we would have done it a lot sooner.
Okay.
Looking at this plan, so this area in here is where I showed you all of the existing foundations that were graded. The water storage tank and existing water building and drill site is down here. You can see Mark Lane right up there. This is our proposed access point, which is outside the DEC wetland buffer and wetlands. It will have local town regulated wetlands around the Shenandoah Creek at that part, but not DEC. And then depending on the final bridge design and the disturbance, we may or may not trigger Army Corps permitting. I believe in the EAF we checked that we did. For the permanent access. If we were going to come through and use the bridge that is down here centrally located in the DEC wetland, we would have clearing through all this portion of the property and all the woods here. Now, that's a portion of the site.
Isn't there a road there already? There's a gate and a road that goes back?
And there's a bunch of overgrowth through that road.
But it's a road.
Not as usable as the one.
That's a matter of opinion, but okay.
That's my opinion. It would also be disturbing a large swath of property that we're not intending on touching in the final plan.
And I think that's a critical piece. And I don't want to, I'm sorry to jump in between you guys and the lawyer getting in between the engineers, but I think that's a critical piece, right? What we're trying to do is use presently disturbed and to be disturbed area that's proposed and not use area that we're saying we want to preserve as part of this cluster division, right? It's not a cluster subdivision, but the cluster development, right? So if we come off of 376, not only do we have to get permits, but we're clearing areas that aren't going to be cleared for the development. So it's excess development. So I just understand that this is a thoroughly vetted plan. We're trying to do this in a way where we're not, it's the least amount of.
But can you show, I don't believe that your access path to Wellfield follows that access road in its entirety. Is there a way to overlap where you come off Mark Lane on the emergency access versus your access to the well drilling? I don't think they overlap exactly.
This is the 2004 aerial that shows the construction that previously occurred on the site a lot more clearly. What you'll see is this area up here is where we're coming in. The original trail does bow up a little bit. We're coming in a little straighter. We think that's a little bit better than this original trail path right up in this area. And then what we're doing is we're working our way through what was less dense forest through here, and then picking up the existing trail that, as you can see, followed the existing foundations and all the way in.
So you're talking about blaze a new trail?
Yeah, exactly.
We are talking about in this area here, that stretch right up top, deviating off the original path and working through and around trees.
Okay.
We're
But
not coming-
blazing new trail, really, that's a non-existing
Just for a
trail
short-
that you're going to blaze?
Just for that first short section, we can go right straight down the existing trail.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right idea.
But going
Why is
back to
that?
the original statement,
Why?
I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
that's okay.
Why is that not the better?
Because I think we'd end up taking more trees, and I think it would create a visual corridor.
Okay,
It'd be a little
so
different.
my question with all of this big picture is, if you were given access off of Mark Lane, does this not open a whole can of worms for future site work to be accessed from there because it's easier and effectively cheaper than accessing the site the proper way? Like, in my opinion, by avoiding the proper access off of 376, we're just opening the door for you to access the site this way for the entirety of all of the site work and the beginning of construction.
Well, that's the purpose of the EIS, though, right? Because part of the EIS is studying construction. And so if we were to propose, and I don't believe we are, but if we were to propose to say, we're going to send everything down Mark Lane, your board as the lead agency can say, we believe that that's an adverse impact, and in order to mitigate that, you need to go off of 376. But we're not there yet for this, right? Because this is just the testing that this board told us to do. Right, I mean, what's a little odd here is I've never, in my over 20 years of secret practice, I've never had an applicant come to the board and say, hey, we want to do a test, and the board is saying, no, don't do the test. But in this
Well,
case,
I don't think anyone's saying not to do the test. I don't think that's what we're saying. I think the issue is the access off of a very long and windy neighborhood road off of a cul-de-sac that is not ever intended to actually access the site. I don't think the issue is the work. I personally don't have any issue with taking down 5 trees. I don't have any issue with brush clearing on the property. My problem is heavy machinery, traffic, which has now become road equipment, pickup trucks, drilling machines, just for one portion of this testing to travel miles down very windy neighborhood roads that haven't been studied.
just to be clear, 3 days of testing, once in, once out. We're not talking about...
Only for the well testing, but we're also talking about the path and fixing the path and making the path wider and adding a new section of the path and bringing in item 4, which is probably not just one truck worth. So
Right.
it's little things and little things and little things that are now compounding, and we don't want access off of this very windy private cul-de-sac.
For the testing or for the project? Because
Personally,
Yeah.
for me, for any of it.
So the problem is that you're asking us to disturb wetland. And by the way, I agree with Rich, DEC is going to tell us no. Right? At the end of the day, we go through that process, we come back to you and you say, sorry, the DEC said no, we have to go that way. There's no other way. But just step back for a second, right? We're trying to figure out the right way to do this so that there's the least amount of impact just to get the testing. And I think if you're going through the other way, you're going straight through wetlands. Like that's not a, typically this board wouldn't say go disturb wetlands.
Eventually, when you start construction?
What's that?
So aren't you going to have to go through that eventually when you start construction?
After getting the proper permitting and the proper mitigation, right?
Not state wetlands.
And not state wetlands. We're avoiding that area, but you have to go through that.
And so that would
Let me
also
ask
be the
this
time.
question, but let me just ask this simple question. So once upon a time, this project started, there's a tank constructed, not a little tank, but a big tank. There's a building constructed. Foundations were constructed. There's sewer manholes or storm manholes out there. A lot of work was done. A road was built in off 376. There's a gate. without having even gone to the DEC to say we're trying to resume this project. You haven't even gone there.
No, you're right. But
Say an investment was made, work was started, disturbance was previously made, because what would you do if you didn't have Mark Lane? Where would that leave? If you didn't have Mark Lane, you're having that conversation with the DEC, right?
Respectfully, I don't think that's a good faith position for the town to take after sitting down with us for 5 months and knowing that this is the proposal. But at the end of the day, the DEC is not going to permit this for a temporary water test. Right, this is just, I mean, you just told the first applicant, go and do your testing, right? They got your approval to do testing.
Are you going to need a permit to take that bridge down? Does the DEC know about that bridge? Are you going to be required to take that bridge down? And will you need a permit to access that bridge to take it down? Because ultimately, you're going to have to take it down.
We're not
Yeah, we're not touching that area. That bridge was built by prior owners.
It's on this property, and it's potentially could impact the flow of the creek. So I think that's something we need to look at. And you would need permits to do that.
Right, but that's what that's not related to what we're saying.
The DEC might be, we're going to go in, we have to access this bridge anyway. I think we'd push for that. Let us do our well test on our way back out, we take the bridge out.
There's a couple of points that we should really make, and I'm going to flip over to the overall plan for a minute. If during the site plan, or first the EIS process, we have a discussion about the bridge and we decide it has to come out, we're going to have to figure out how. And that doesn't mean blazing a road, clearing a road straight through this portion of the site necessarily. That may mean build your access over here where there are no DEC wetlands, get your permits from Army Corps if they're needed, get your local permits for the local wetland disturbance, because we will need those, and get the bridge out this way where it is least impactful to the wetlands. The other thing I don't want to dismiss, there are neighbors here too. When I gave you those distances to where we're proposing to use the existing trail, we're hundreds of feet away. We would be 100 feet away from those neighbors in an area that, again, we're not planning on touching otherwise. And truth be told, if we do end up having to remove the bridge, if that does come up through the EIS process, the shortest route and what DEC would make us to do to be as least impactful as possible would be to back it out through our site. They would not want us just necessarily coming in off 376 to do it.
Again, I think that's a conversation that has to be had with the DEC, so.
Well, fine, but that's a different issue that was before the board tonight, right? The way that NPV phrased it is, do we do it now or do we do it at the FEIS? Testing has to happen.
So, question for Michelle, maybe Michael. At what point does an adverse impact get triggered before we determine the other adverse impacts? So the traffic, the construction vehicles, and that's just the first part of the site study. There's other things and other reasons for them to have to access the site before they can, I guess, put in their access from 376, the new access from 376, not the existing one, because I understand that's also impactful. At what point is it an adverse impact to determine if it's an adverse impact?
Wait, well, hold on. The legal issue here is this an action? Right? From a secret perspective, and I know the attorneys will weigh in, but from a secret perspective, the question is this an action?
Accessing the site, is that
the question? The testing. No, it's not in action. There's no permit needed. We've gone through the process to get the methodology approved, just like the secret
There is a
handbook.
permit required to drill this third well. When you say there's no permit required.
But does the town, and I don't believe they do, in fact, I know it because I just saw it with the first applicant, you didn't go through secret to give that applicant the okay to go test or to go clear trees. This is not that complicated in terms of, hey, do we need to do a secret review to just evaluate whether we're doing a study for the secret review? That's not what the regulations stand for. The issue here is what's the best way to approach this to answer a question that this board put in its scope
So just to sort of, to move back a little bit, the board's already determined there's potential for significant adverse environmental impacts. That's why you decked it. You gave it a positive declaration.
Right.
So now they're studying whether or not they can mitigate these potential adverse environmental impacts or whether there are any actual potential adverse environmental impacts. So anything that you've thought of already with traffic and other things, it's a potential adverse environmental impact. That's why you decked it originally.
So I guess my question is, if we say you can't access the site off of Mark Lane, we want you to do the well testing because I think that that's absolutely necessary. We know that's part of the process. Are you able to access the site off of 376 in your proposed new access, not the previous access with the bridge and the DEC wetlands, in your proposed new access point that you're going to have to build anyway?
You mean when the project is built?
Correct.
Sure.
And the reason I ask this is because, again, this is not the last time you will access this site going forward after the well testing for preparations before construction, before even approval.
Well, I guess the simple answer to that is I'm sure there's a way, right, because eventually, once we've built it, but you have to approve the project first, right? It's the cart before the horse. We can't build what you're looking at until we complete SECRA and there's a finding statement. And in order for you to determine whether or not there's a significant adverse impact with respect to water usage and water capacity, we have to test.
But again, if Mark Lane is not an option, how are you accessing the site?
It is an option.
We legally have frontage on
Right.
Mark Lane.
So, Michael Cunningham, is there some way to get them through this process without doing the well drilling right now? I know he said you don't want to delay this, but I didn't hear you say you can't delay this, and that we might be able to give you permission to delay it because it was our requirement in the first place.
Or Michael answers that, let me just add, it's not as if the water is an unknown. In many cases, there's no test wells ever been drilled. You don't know if you have water. There is a history of test wells. We're looking to see if there's additional capacity. We've adopted a redundancy requirement that they need to meet. But there's nothing in all the projections to indicate that they're not going to have water for this project, okay? This is more of a confirmation than a real true exploratory to see if there is water. It's more of a confirmation, in my opinion.
Got it. So it's likely, and if you find that you don't have the capacity you're looking for, then you'll drill another well, I presume.
Well, let me answer the first question first in terms of when we would do it. If this board is telling us you don't have to satisfy 3 and 4 of the SECRA scope now in order to prepare a DEIS that's complete in your eyes, we need that on the record. We need that in writing, because I can guarantee you when there is a DEIS hearing and people start asking questions about the well capacity and they're going to say they just assumed, which we'll do. We'll do it. We'll use the assumptions that WSP in their email or I think it's a memo or email indicated the 525 to 575 gallons per minute. We'll use that assumption. We think it's actually a good assumption. We think it's going to actually provide a lot more water for everybody. We'll do it, but we just don't want then to be before you in a couple of months and someone stand up from the public and say, hey, they didn't do what you asked them to do, and then you guys say, yeah, it's not complete.
And that could happen because they were sent letters. They were sent letters to participate in the testing.
They could always do that as part of the final.
What's they? What do you mean?
They could ask that you do the well testing, and that could be included as part of your final.
Yeah, right. The issue I'm addressing is this board saying it's not complete, and refusing to put us on, for public
Correct,
hearing.
but they could, if that were to happen, you could ask for it as part of the final environmental impact.
Right, okay.
So
at a later
But does that solve the problem of the impact? Because that is only essentially kicking the can.
It's when you're getting the information about the water, essentially. And if you kick it to the final, you may have information about other impacts on the site before you get that information.
And you will have had public hearings by then.
So after they submit their draft environmental impact statement, then you're going to have a public hearing, and then you're going to get a lot of I'm presumably we're going to get a lot of comments from the public. Then the applicant goes back, they answer all of the questions, and then they resubmit for the final environmental impact statement. So sooner or later, it's effectively what Sarah was saying, sooner or later, they're going to want to perform this test. And whether they absolutely have to do it now, the board could determine that then the draft environmental impact statement is complete without the testing, but eventually they're most likely going to have to do this testing. So sooner or later, the board's going to have to make a decision about access to do this testing.
Well, considering the fact that we have only had a couple of days as a board to even review some of the correspondence, I guess I, for one, would like to at least put this off until our next meeting. I'm very uncomfortable in approving this access from Mark Lane because I think my sense was we had an understanding with the public that that would only be used for emergency vehicles and never for any construction equipment. I mean, I think there's no question about that. And even though you're only removing 5 trees, the first time a chainsaw is revved up, it's going to cause a lot of concern. The construction traffic and trucks with item 4 are going to cause concern. There's a lot of things that I think we need to think about. And with regards to any action along the lines of kicking this down the road, if you will, of actually potentially putting this approval for some time later, I think we need to take it up with council over the next few days and determine what it is that are all the options and what are the best course of action.
Mr. Chairman, can I just be heard on that? Because that's not the request, nor is that what SECRA permits or I believe the law permits. There's nothing in the SECRA regulations that say once a scope is adopted with respect to methodology, with respect to testing, that the applicant has to come back to the board every single time to get any sort of approval or anything from the board before they can do the testing. If the board is saying, look, we want to look into this issue, and so we don't want you to do the testing now, so be it, but you just can't keep us on the agenda for that, then the answer is we'll do it at the FEIS stage. As long as this board now says, look, if somebody comes up and says it's not a complete EIS because you haven't done the testing, we're all on the same page that we're not doing the testing because today the board wasn't comfortable with it. That's, that's the way to navigate this.
And are you amenable, though, to giving us until the next meeting to make that final determination, or you want a determination this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I wish I could stand up here and say I am, and I know my client is, but here's the issue, and I know you guys are just seeing this for the first time. If we had been told 5 months ago, I think September was when we started this, to come to you, to talk to you, we would have been here. So if I go back to my client tonight and say, we've been pushed again to another month, I don't think that's going to be acceptable. So if the issue is that the board wants to talk to council and whomever they want to talk to about access, then we'll do the testing during the FEIS process. You'll have plenty of time to do that, but don't push us off. We want to get this DEIS in your hands and get this public review started.
Okay. Michael, do you have any thoughts?
So if that's, I think something that both sides maybe don't necessarily love but we're comfortable with is if the board just adopted by motion some sort of intention to be part of the minutes that any sort of hydrologic testing can be completed as part of the FEIS stage of the SECRA process, then they would accept that. I think that even though that's not necessarily what the applicant's asking for, it sounds like they really do not want to be put over another month. They'd rather just get a decision right now on that point.
Understood.
But does that address site access going forward?
It does not, no. I mean, it's like you said, it's kicking the can down the road. That issue's going to come up again.
We will have had public hearings by then, right?
We will. There will be another public hearing.
And this access could be discussed at those public hearings.
It could be.
Which
explain to the public exactly what's going on.
Which I think is an important step.
Yeah.
I really do. So I think Michael articulated it perfectly, and I'm not sure that I could repeat it. Are you going to try to do it?
I'm right now.
Appreciate that.
So I think the board could have a motion to allow the hydrologic testing to be completed during the final environmental impact statement review process.
I would say any testing, just to make sure, right, just to cover it, whether it's hydrological or well.
Is there any sort of other testing needed as part of the DIS?
Well, we're just talking about the well access right now. I don't know if there's any,
Well, they could come up as comments and ask
So,
during the DEIS, somebody could ask during the public.
I think it's
Subsurface testing, how about that? Is it-
any sort of, okay, a motion to allow any sort of subsurface testing to be done as part of the FEIS, the final environmental impact stage of the review.
the access off Mark Lane. How about that?
That, do you want?
They want to come in off 376, have at it, but if it's cars coming in off Mark Lane, it's going to be.
Well, but I think if we put Mark Lane in now, then it's accepting that they're going to have to come off Mark Lane.
Okay.
So,
Or other than
Okay.
376, or other than 376.
Machinery. This is, oy vey, I'm sorry, I apologize, board. At least we're the last on the agenda, but Rich is reminding me, if we go in with shovels, that's also subsurface, and I think the issue is vehicular access, not if he comes in with a shovel, we're not objecting, so.
Not objecting.
Yeah.
any motorized equipment, is that?
Motorized subsurface.
Well, we want to understand the diameter and length of the shovel.
We promise we won't have to make a wider, yeah.
Well, just another question about cutting the trees. Is that going to have impacts with the Indiana bats and stuff? Because don't they have to have things cut by like March 31st, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, anytime there's tree cutting, but it's also, there's certain thresholds, so it didn't sound like they were cutting a lot
But
of
all
trees.
that information
Yeah.
would be,
Well, and I think we would expect the tree cutting to be put off until such time as any tree cutting might be necessary for this or any other purpose, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a plan of tree cutting. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I have the motion. So it would be a motion to allow any subsurface testing needing to be completed by motorized equipment to occur during the FEIS, the final environmental impact stage of review, rather than the DEIS, draft environmental impact stage of the review.
this is all related to water only, or is this
No, I said testing. It was subsurface testing.
Right.
what about historic stuff? Is there any historic resources, or you don't have any?
Okay. All right.
See, I don't know what's complete or not, because I haven't seen the DEIS yet.
Put something in there
We
to
need to do
say
this.
no access to the site off of Mark Lane without approval?
Well, they can't access it right now without approval anyway.
Well,
Well, there's a dispute about that.
Through a property's frontage, I think we should.
yeah, right.
No, that's why we're talking about the motorized equipment. Like we're talking about if they want to come in off shovel with.
Right, the issue, we don't necessarily have a reason to come in and start digging with equipment, but for the EIS, and so the issue is just when we're going to do it. It's not, I mean, if we want to come on the
But if they
property.
have frontage on Mark Lane that they own, they can pull up to
Yeah,
it.
Sure.
Right.
Site, I mean, it is
And
their
and I
property.
think you understand the spirit of
And also,
where
too,
we
we
are
talked about no motorized equipment as well.
on this.
For this up.
And the reason I jumped in David's ears, we may do percolation testing in support of stormwater. Or we
You
may
have to come to the microphone, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
we're going to probably do some percolation or infiltration testing as part of stormwater. We may do some deep test pits. We may just use shovels, right? We'll have to work through that, but, that was why we didn't want to use.
But even to
all
that extent,
subsurface.
just to speak about that specifically, if you need to come in with like a small-size excavator, not, a 6-ton machine or something like that, one machine on a tag-along trailer that could traverse what's there right now without having to build a road to do your deep test, I don't think, and you're going to be in and out in a day, so I don't think we have any issue with that.
We-
That sound about right?
Yeah, we would love for everybody to be okay with that.
Okay. So Michael, could we ask you to repeat
Yeah,
the
I'll
motion?
say it again. And then I'll add in another part two.
Bring it up.
Unless, I'll add in a part two at the end, unless otherwise approved by the town engineer, because that's
Last
what it
meeting, let this guy leave already, would you?
Perk test, other than perk test.
Other than perk tests? Okay.
Okay.
Other than percolation, okay.
Copy that from you later.
Yeah,
I've given up.
all right. So, okay, it's a motion to allow any subsurface testing needing to be completed by motorized equipment to occur during the FEIS, the final environmental impact stage of review, rather than the DEIS, draft environmental impact stage of review, other than percolation tests.
Okay, could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. Thank you for your time and for your presentation.
See you soon. The only other thing, just to confirm, so we're going to use the 525, 575, we're okay with that in terms of the assumption for the water?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, all right, good night. So if there's no other business to come before the planning board, I want to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day, and I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.